Hello guys and welcome back to episode 2 of my Amazon Lord of the Rings TV series Races series. So in this series, as I said in the last episode, we look at all the different races in Middle Earth that could be shown and portrayed in Amazon's Lord of the Rings TV series. And today's episode is quite interesting as we could be looking at Black Númenóreans and seeing what role they could play in the Second Age and in the show, while also looking at their features, characteristics and their history in Middle Earth. So let's get into today's video. Black Númenóreans, who are originally called the King's Men, were a fallen group of Númenóreans descended from those who were loyal to the Númenórean crown, but against the Valar and relations with the elves. So after Sauron's fellowship with Númenor under the secret identity of Anatar, these Númenóreans listened to his words and thought the messages he was portraying were correct and believed them over listening to the Valar. So these words initially then corrupted them, and they worshipped the darkness and its lords, which were Melkor and later Sauron, and oppressed the men left in Middle-earth. Ever since they were the servants of the enemy and bitter adversaries to the Dunedain. So after Númenor fell and some of them did survive, they hated all the men that were in Middle-earth. At first they resided and lived in Númenor, but after Númenor fell they then spread to Umbar, Angmar, Harad and other southern lands, while also spreading Sauron's message and stories and ideas to all these different types of people as well. They also spoke Westron and Black speech, and their regular Númenórean lifespan was 300 to 350 years, like a normal Númenórean person. Now let's go on to the history of Black Númenóreans, and therefore we're going to start in the Second Age, and all this information I'm going to show could be shown in Amazon's Lord of the Rings TV series. So, as the power and knowledge of Númenóreans grew throughout the course of the Second Age, they became increasingly preoccupied with the limits placed on their contentment in the world, and eventually their power, by mortality, the purpose of which they began to question. So how they believe how it's unfair that elves could live for so long and be immortal, but how come men like them, even though they did live 300 to 350 years, were only mortal? As time went on, they began to fear death, even though LOTR gave it to them as a present. And they started to fear death more and more, and ultimately wished to escape it. So the Númenóreans became envious of the immortal elves, whom they had come to physically resemble as part of their reward from LOTR for being their allies. The Elder sought to remind the men of Númenor that death was actually a gift, as I said before. The Elder also reminded them that if they do go against the idea of death being a gift, they are going against Ilúvatar and what he believed in and his purpose and messages as well. However, nevertheless, after 2221 of the Second Age, LOTR and Calimon became king of Númenor, the King's Men, also known as the Black Númenóreans, therefore became more gullible and started to feed in to the corruption of Sauron. After he came to Númenor, as around this time, Sauron started to go in, or Anatar started to go in high in the ranks within Númenor and started to gain more power in the island. Eventually, in Númenor's last years, the hugely powerful but elderly king of Pharazôn, who had become frightened of old age, and you can see this quote in letters number 156, was persuaded by Sauron that Ilúvatar was a lie invented by the Valar and seduced him. Within Númenor, the majority immediately followed suit, and the worship quickly passed across the ocean when they sailed eastwards from Númenor to most of the Númenórean colonies in Middle-earth, where the group started in proper, and this is where the Black Númenóreans began to properly come to power, when Sauron had finally persuaded the king of Númenor that you should believe in this bad and heretical stuff. This group thrived in Middle-earth, particularly in Umbar and the destruction of Númenor. They continued to oppose the faithful, from which came the kings of Arnor and Gondor, and the faithful were the ones that survived the fall of Númenor and got on the ships and made it to Middle-earth. 3 of the 9 Ringwraiths can also be considered among the first and most powerful Númenóreans who were corrupted by Sauron 1,000 years before the downfall. They served Sauron, being enslaved to his rule, having been so because of their lust for power and knowledge, and the Black Númenóreans still remain loyal towards Sauron despite all these things. And they started doing like some rituals like black arts and follies, which arose as a consequence of their worship to the dark, and Melkor marked the final division between the king's men and the minority known as the faithful Númenóreans, or the Elendil, who kept to the old faith of Ilúvatar. So basically here what I'm trying to say is that Númenor was split between the faithful who still believe in the Valar and death is a gift, and the ones that worshipped Melkor, as Annatar had made them believe that Melkor was great and he should be following his messages as well. For many centuries after the downfall of Númenor, descendants of the king's men held on to colonies in Middle-earth, and one of the most strongest and famous, which is Umbar, which was a realm in exile. Most of those few Númenóreans who had never disavowed the Eldar and had always remained true to the belief in Ilúvatar and that death was a gift also survived the destruction of their homeland, and they established their own realms in exile north of Umbar in familiar and friendly colonies. The faithful Númenóreans saw their southern counterparts as renegades. The Black Númenóreans had a similarly low opinion of the faithful and their descendants, so all these different people of Númenor split apart, making their own colonies within Middle-earth, where also at the times elves still resided. Only 2 Black Númenórean lords are named from the time of the late Second Age, Húrma and I think it's Fëanor. Like all Black Númenóreans and king's men before them, Húrma and Fëanor desired power over men of other lesser races, and they rose to the great power amongst the Haradrim, the peoples neighbouring Umbar. So here you're seeing Umbar and Harad forming and becoming strong and powerful allies. Their fate eventually was unknown, but they were likely defeated along with Sauron in the War of the Last Alliance. Hopefully all of the information and events that I have explained and detailed throughout the second part of this video will be seen in Amazon's Lord of the Rings TV series, as we're going to see the division of a realm and an island, as all these people who once believed in the greatness of Ilúvatar and that death is a gift to Sauron / Annatar coming in and destroying this idea and splitting these people apart, and then seeing them separate and transfer into Middle-earth, but create their own exile colonies as Arnor, Gondor, Harad and Umbar. So we're going to see this maybe as a progression throughout the TV series. But now let's wrap up the history and wrap up the video with what happened to the Black Númenóreans in the Third Age. So, the triumph of the Lost Alliance marked the decline of the Black Númenórean race and the end of their racial superiority. However, the Black Númenórean elite survived at least in Umbar for 1,000 years after Númenor's fall, maintaining much influence in Haradwraith. Eventually, in the Third Age, the Black Númenóreans joined the Witch King of Angmar in his conquests of Arnor. The fate of the Black Númenóreans of Angmar is unknown. They would have been at least disbanded after the Battle of Fornost. The Black Númenóreans are absent from recorded history of the defeat of Ciriaher of Gondor in 1050 of the Third Age, but a population of sorts evidently lived into the latter part of the Third Age, and we don't know if any actually fought in the events of the War of the Ring, as we know not only Minas Tirith and Rohan was there, but also Dale, Erebor, Lothlorien as well. Interestingly, Queen Buthiel, wife of Gondor's king Teranon Falister, was a Black Númenórean from a realm somewhere south of Umbar. Her marriage was a loveless union and was presumably a political accommodation. Additionally, the mouth of Sauron, who mocked the army of King Elessar in front of the Black Gate, was described both as a Black Númenórean and a renegade, and this is the last recorded things of Black Númenóreans that we see in Tolkien's work and in Middle-earth. So thank you guys for watching, I really appreciate it. Please like, subscribe if you want to see content like this every Wednesday and Saturday, and also to see updates on Amazon's LOTR TV series. But until the next video, my friends, goodbye.